Good afternoon, everyone. I couldn't find my Yankee hat, so I did the best I could. My name is Cliff Odell, and I am on the faculty in the department in the School of Drama here at UNCSA, and it's my honor to guide us through this memorial service for Scott Beckwith. A couple things about Scott before we begin to celebrate his life. He has earned what I call a triple crown, and that is he was an alum of the UNCSA Scenic Tech Department in 2009. He was an alum of the Automation Department in 2010, and he is on faculty as Director of Stage Automation. He is also a NAV instructor at Tate Towers. I got to know Scott pretty much the same way I got to know most of the design and production department, through drinking. And by that, I don't mean partying. We were all a little long in the tooth for that. What I meant is the weekly after-hours interdepartmental faculty meetings that we would have at Southside. If you know, you know. It was there that I learned much about what I was in for here at UNCSA. This is my fourth year, by the way. All the good, the bad, and the weird. We're artists, so there's going to be some weird. But it was Scott that helped me through my first big disappointment. While I was directing my first UNCSA show, Barbecue, I was hoping to have this large kabuki drop curtain that surrounded the stage, the whole audience area, because it was in the round. And during a big reveal, it would come down, it would be an awesome thing. And yes, DMP folks, I'm still complaining about that. Get over it. So the drop would come down, it would be an awesome reveal, because you see, when I work with student designers, I encourage them to dream big and see what happens. Well, what happened was the budget. We couldn't afford it. Now, of course, this bummed me out to no end, and it was Scott over a beer that essentially told me, well, you taught him to dream big, now you can teach him disappointment. Lucky you. But he was right. It was a valuable lesson. It was a valuable reminder that theater is a collaborative endeavor. We are all here to solve the problems of the production because every production is a problem. The beauty is not in the making the dream come true, but turning the reality of the problems into a thing of beauty, into a thing of truth. Speaking of truth, I'm an expert cancer mourner. 7 years ago this month, I lost my wife to cancer. Before that, I lost my mother to multiple myeloma, and my eldest sister to bladder cancer, and my favorite uncle to prostate cancer. Now, my father did have prostate cancer himself, but he had to be different and die of a stroke instead. He hated following trends. The truth I speak of is the main reason we are here. I have learned over the years that memorials are not for the dead. I have learned that they're not for those who have passed on. They have run their race, finished their work, and have earned their rest. Memorials are for us, the living. The rest of us who have to trudge on this mud ball of a planet and in these crazy times that keep changing different shades of crazy. In short, it's to remind us that we are all indeed alive. When we lose a loved one, there is an empty space that's created, and that empty space is heavy, and it hurts. We all feel that weight. But that does not mean that the weight will always weigh us down. Counterintuitively, that space gets lighter as we fill it up. It gets lighter as we fill it up with memories. It gets lighter as we fill it up with truth. It gets lighter as we fill it up with love. It will never go away, but it does get lighter. In this memorial, we begin the process together of making that space lighter. In this memorial, we will hold each other, cry with each other, laugh with each other, remember with each other. In this memorial, we will remind ourselves that through death, we remember life. In this memorial, we remember that we are alive. We are alive. We are alive. Thank God Almighty, we are alive. And because we are alive, we have the privilege of carrying Scott's memory forward. And may that memory light all of our futures and bring grace to all of our pasts. Let the people say amen. I said, let the people say amen. 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 I am alive. I am alive. I am alive. Thank you. Next up, we will have Jameson Haynes, he, him, a C2 Scenic Tech student and former Boy Scout, who, like Scott, was also an Eagle Scout. I myself was a Boy Scout. I made it to second class. I wasn't very good at it, but I did learn how to hotwire a car. Jameson?
At this time, I ask all past and present Boy Scouts or Scouts of America to please join me in the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout Law, to help other people at all times, keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. The Scout Law. Scout is trustworthy. Scout is loyal. Scout is helpful. Scout is friendly. Scout is courteous. Scout is kind. Scout is obedient. Scout is cheerful. Scout is thrifty. Scout is brave. Scout is clean. And Scout is reverent. Thank you.
Next up, we will have Lori Brody, she, her, Scott's cousin.
I didn't want to follow this guy. Next time, we gotta switch. Oh, and I can't see any of your faces, which makes this better. My notes are on my phone. I'm not connected to my social media that bad, promise. So I'm Scott's cousin. I was not gonna cry. Okay. I'm honored to be here. His parents asked me to speak for the family. We'll see if they think that was a good idea or not when we're done. But I want to also thank the whole family for sending me their thoughts that I could put together. So most of you knew Scott as an adult, where we have the privilege of knowing him since he was very, very young. And you may not know, he had a lot of nicknames. Scotzo. Yell out if you've heard these and you're not family. Scotzo Bologna. Don't hear anyone. Scott Michael Motorcycle. But who here ever heard him go by Scotty? Yeah, not happening. So let's not remember him as Scotty. We all remember him as a child, the family, loving G.I. Joes, magic tricks, all the adventures with his cousins. There were 12 of us as a group, counting his brothers, and we were legendary. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. He was a very observant child who was usually a little on the quiet side. It sounds like that's not your experience with him as an adult, so I'm really excited to hear more about that. But there was a time he came running in and broke out of that quiet shell, running in to tell his aunt, who happens to be my mother, that he was mortified. His 6-year-old cousin, my sister, Trisha, could not throw or catch a ball at 6 years old. This was mortifying. I think he was worried about her development, which we'll talk about outside later. But he might have been questioning my mom's parenting priorities. Regardless, he was very concerned. But otherwise, he tended to just go with the flow with us a lot. He started theater very, very young. So as a cousin group of 12, we put on performances that, let me tell y'all, you wish you could have done that. It was high-quality Legends of Our Own Mind work. He did a lot of backstage work. We did acting, we did singing, we did it all. This was before TikTok, or we would have had our own channel, or whatever you kids call it. But there was a time he was the lead actor with the same script, probably 5, 6, 7 times, 6, 7. When he married fake married, y'all, my little sister, they were probably 6, 7. The same one who couldn't throw the ball. So we're not sure if he was hoping he could help her or what the situation was, but he would own his character like a true professional, all up into that final pivotal scene where you kiss the bride and the two would take off running in the other direction. But other than that, he was always true to the arts. He was a curious human, always up for hard work, always up for hard work. But if you worked with him, anybody here ever worked with him? Oh, good, I'm getting some laughs, yes. If you worked with him, there were things you knew that you maybe shouldn't do. You might want to have a tool belt. Because if you put your tool down and you turn around to do something else, even if you're not done with it, just ask his dad, he put it back. So if you wanted to, I hear there's some truth in this. Come on, bring it. So if you really wanted to get extra steps, leave that tool belt at home. But otherwise, you better pay attention where you put things down. Scott enjoyed a lot of life in the single pleasures, being outdoors, being with friends, being with family, a good project, or a cold beverage. Allegedly, that continued on into his later adult years, which I guess we're now calling staff meetings. Scott was definitely not the loudest person in the room. But dang it, I was doing so good, y'all. He was definitely one of the most present. He listened more than he talked, which, as you can tell, if he was with me, didn't get a lot of turns anyway. In preparing for today, I asked a lot of family members to give me some content. What were words that make you think of Scott? What are your stories? And I heard the same theme over and over. Kind, helpful, smart, patient, smiley, and respectful. I remember that contagious giggle that Scott had as a little boy. And if you weren't smiling when he had that, there was something wrong with you as a human. It was a you problem, not a him problem. Scott did not seek the spotlight, but he leaves a light behind. A light full of gentleness, quiet, strength, nope. Quality and humor. I'm sure he's laughing at me right now. While we all wish we had more time with him, we take a lot of comfort in knowing he's united with family who left before us, and he's probably up with our grandfather, Papa Bill, singing that dang macaroni song. Maybe we can get Diane to do that for us later. Pony macaroni, we heard it a lot. I think that's where he is. We were blessed to have known him. Thank you.
Next up is Andrew Johnson, he, him, C4 Scenic Tech student speaking for his classmates. Andrew?
Well, hello, everyone. I wish I could say I was a little more prepared for some words this moment, but sorry, try and be a little louder. But over the last few days, trying to collect all these words and all these stories for Scott, and talking to my classmates, and I realized that the truth is there's no number of stories you could say or memories you could share about Scott that really kind of hone in about how I think we all feel and felt as students with Scott in the room and in our shop. He was always present, right? And I think I can speak for everyone when I say that when you're building on that shop floor and you're doing something that maybe you felt like you didn't know what you were doing or this was not the right way to get that done, you looked over your shoulder and there he was staring right at you. And talking to my classmates, it was always he'd always walk up and he'd be like, "So what you doing, huh?" Right? And that phrase, it was it wasn't concerning, right? But you knew he was watching and you knew he was there. And Scott was so patient and soft in his teaching. And he really honed in on the fact of guiding you and getting you out of your spiral when you're trying to figure out what to do and you're running yourself in circles. But he was kind of that hand that would put on your shoulders and turn you in the right direction and just push you, right? Every time you came to him with a problem, he knew the answer, but it wasn't his answer to tell, it was yours to find, right? And he would push you in that direction and guide you there. His presence in that shop was, I think, unlike any other, really. But I remember that when we went through Scott's passing, we all gathered together around a fire as students in the student body to tell these stories. And that was the moment that I realized that Scott was, for a lot of people, that first face or that first voice at this institution that you'd walk up. I remember my first tour here. It was well after school was out. Nobody was on campus, but Scott met with me right up the hill, right back there, to take me on a tour. And I will never forget walking up that hill and seeing that DMP sign. And Scott standing there with his sweater vest and his high vis, hands in his pockets, leaning back, all smile, just waiting, because he loved what he did. And he had so much pride in that and cared so much. He had this incredible way of seeing the world and seeing problems and seeing solutions, not only in moving parts and hardware and wood and steel, but also in people, right? He could see who you were, and he tried to find who you were as a person so that he could understand you and give you the best education for a person, just for you, right? He didn't teach necessarily to the masses always. He taught to individual people because that's where he saw people being their best. Because if he can be on your level and understand you, he can guide you to where you want to be. And there's so many stories of my classmates and people of Scott being the first one in and the first one out, and always just hanging around with you for 2-3 hours talking about knots or ropes, and right? He loved his knots. We talked for 30 minutes about how to do an eye splice, and he showed it to me, and I still can't do that. But he was there to show you. If you were curious, he was there, and he loved it. I don't think I've ever seen any professor, educator of mine light up so much when you had that light bulb moment, because that's what he saw. That's what he was looking for. It was for you to have that moment where it clicked and your face lit up and his lit up right next to yours, and you guys were in this together to go solve that problem. There was one show a couple years back, one of our spring operas. We had some crazy doors that were going in, and doors might seem simple, but these were not. And we talked about hinges, and he had that whiteboard up in his office, and he always had that X-Bolt marker ready to go, whether it was on the belt or just right there. Pull it out, and we're just swinging arcs and talking about how all this is going to run and the open clearance, and he was just there every step, right? He would take the large, huge, crazy problem in your head and pinch it to what you need to focus on, because, like I said, he knew that answer, and he just knew how to funnel your head to that problem so you could start there, break it down, and then it clicked, right? And then you could go off and do your job, and he loved to watch it, right? But yeah, he was always around. He was a storyteller, right? He was always there to share those moments with us through thick and thin. And over these last couple of years, we've had some really rough moments as a department, but he was always there, and you could see that in him. He wasn't putting on a facade trying to be strong. He showed you who he was, and he was always a form follows function man, right? Getting ready today, I dressed up and looked at myself in the mirror, and I kind of went, this isn't Scott. Like, I don't know if I can picture that man in dress shoes, honestly. But he was practical, and things made sense, and there was always the right tool for the job. And he had that toolbox that sat in our metal shop that was just that symbol of that. Every single drawer organized to the T. He knew where everything was, and he would always offer up his tools. And I remember breaking a couple of those tools sometimes, and you come walking back to him in pieces, and you're like, Scott. And you go, oh no, you broke the $10 tool. Shame I can't buy another one, right? But he never made you feel bad about not knowing And he always encouraged you being curious, even when you didn't know what you were curious about. I'm always going to miss the days that he was that shop cop looking over your shoulder and always being ready with what he had. And I think that lives in most of us and all of us. And the big thing was, I remember the first class I had with him in MoCo this year, which unfortunately was the only one I was able to have with him. But he honed in and told us always that in his office, right off the center of the shop, right in the focus point, that if that light was on, that he was there. If that light was turned off, he was home and he was doing his own thing. But if that light was on and he wasn't in the office, he was here. And you walk through down that hallway, those double doors swing open, and the first thing you see is Scott's door, Scott's office, right there. After that class, I think a couple days later, that light turned off, and I think for a couple weeks there, I prayed that light would turn back on, and that I'd walk through those doors and see that light on again in that room, because it meant that he was here. I could see him again, right? But it took a little bit for me to realize that it didn't matter if that light switch was on, if that light bulb turned on, if he was the one that flipped that switch, that he had spent so much time and put so much care into his students in this institution, that he was that light no matter what, that even if that switch was down, that light still existed. And that even seeing that office door right now, that he shines so bright through that door, and walking in those doors, I see it every day. And I'm so grateful for him. Yeah, that's about all I got. Thank you, guys.
Next up, we have McLean Snow, he, him, 2007 Scenic Tech alum, former DMP faculty and current guest faculty, and Scott's colleague at Tate Towers. McLean?
Good afternoon. I've got many stories I can tell you about Scott, but before I do, I want to speak to the current students in the room. I know a lot of people in this room. One person in particular, probably the longest. Jessica Holcomb and I met on stage at Reynolds Auditorium over 25 years ago. I was 15 years old. Well, what no one told me when we met, and I imagine no one has told most of you, is the people you're going to meet if you decide to work in the theater business are different. They are not just high school friends, college buddies, coworkers, or teachers. These people will become your family. Why this happens should be fairly obvious. The amount of time we spend with each other through long hours in the shop, horrible travel days, or all-nighters in some theater you've never heard of just adds up fast. Experts say it takes 50 hours of socializing to go from acquaintance to casual friend, another 40 hours to become a real friend, and then 200 hours to become a close friend. In this business, when you're living together, eating every meal together, and working all day, night together, that can be less than 2 weeks. Do that for a number of weeks or years, and you are no longer a close friend, you are family. So when I tell you that Scott Beckwith was my family, he wasn't like a brother, he was my brother. I am telling you all this because I want to prepare you for the incredible highs the kind of relationship will bring, and also the unbelievable amount of pain it can cause. Today, we are all experiencing that pain, but we are lucky because I bet we can all remember the highs we got from spending time with Scott. For this room full of family, here's what I want you to know about Scott Beckwith. Scott was without a doubt the greatest Boy Scout I have ever known. He took the motto of be prepared literally, and he never showed up to work without a pocket knife or flashlight. Ironically, when he showed up to my house for even a friendly visit, his first question was always, "What are we working on tonight, boss?" For this room full of family, Being prepared is one thing, but a scout is also loyal. Loyalty to me is pretty easy. If I call and ask for help, you will respond. No matter what I called or what I asked, Scott always answered the call. That kind of loyalty, in my experience, is the kind you only have with people who are your family. The last part of the Scout Oath makes reference to being morally straight. Morally straight is a unique phrase, not to be confused identifying one's sexuality, but in this case, it means to do everything in your life with honor, respect others, and be a person of strong character. Scott's strength of character was unmatched. I can look at all of you today and tell you when it came to Scott's passion and work ethic, there is no one I know with his strength of character. He never left before all the work was done, the last truck was packed, or a student was waiting to talk to him. If Scott said he was going to do something, not only did it get done, but he did it to the highest possible level. Scott was a role model for me when it comes to these things, and I strive every day to have a fraction of the character he had. I imagine every person in this room has stories about Scott that reflect what I have highlighted. Because when you have the kind of character Scott had, it is on display to everyone he meets, not just his friends and family. I have many stories about Scott, soaking me in hydraulic oil or me dragging him to a bocce dinner when I came to town. For me, Scott's legacy will always be that he was the definition of do the right thing no matter what, and especially when no one is watching. If we want to carry on his legacy, I would encourage all of us to do the same. Unless you break $500,000 worth of lights, then lie like hell. After I left Scott in the hospital for the final time, I drove straight to Jessica's house and didn't have to say anything because she wrapped her arms around me and let me weep for the soon-to-come loss of my brother. What an amazing feeling it was to be comforted by one family member as we mourn the passing of another. I hope all of you find the same comfort in each other today and for years to come as we remember our friend and our brother, Scott Beckwith. Thank you.
I want to apologize to our next speaker, Jeremiah Lamb. You see, he appears earlier on your order of service. However, I do not have your order of service. I have Cliff Notes. So please let that be a lesson to any students here. Don't rely on the Cliff Notes. Go off the source material. Jeremiah Lamb, friend of Scott's, they both met at Show Motion. Jeremiah.
You didn't make it easy for me, McLean. I'm honored to be here. I really appreciate being asked to speak. Scott was a remarkable person, and obviously, based on how many people are here, he touched all of us in a different way. I met him about 20 years ago, and I was a few years younger than him. I was a third-year student. He was coming back as a grad student, and immediately I knew that this was a person that I could learn a lot from, and so I sort of honed in and really tried to figure out how I could just be around Scott and absorb more. I really thought that would be difficult. But it really wasn't. It was remarkable how he knew so much more than me, but he never made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing. He always made me feel like he could help and he was there, but he never once made me feel small. And that really meant a lot to me at that time in my life. And I think that many of you, all of you who are students, met Scott at a similar time in your life. It's a remarkable thing what he can do. Over the years, we got much closer, and we grew from our relationship being a bit more of a mentor to being very close friends. We grew in our careers and our lives, and then we moved to different parts of the country, and we would talk every now and again, but ultimately it was never exactly the same. A few years ago, we started working together again, and it was remarkable how nothing had changed. Scott is the person that you can call no matter what. When going into any problem, he is the man you want with you, every time. Through most of the hard times in my life, both personal and professional, Scott was there for me in a way that I don't think I ever could be there for him. I will forever, forever try to live up to the man that Scott was. Scott asked for nothing. He gave without hesitation. And he woke up every single day with purpose. And he acted on that purpose with no hesitation. He was the right tool for the job here. And when he came back here, I knew that this place was in good hands. I am glad that he's touched so many of you and changed your lives. And I only hope that the rest of us can take his legacy and try to do the same in his honor. Thank you.
Next up, we will hear a song, Eagle's Wings. This is a song that Scott sang in the choir. It's going to be performed by Janine Hawley, a mixture of students from drama and D&P, and maybe even a faculty member or two.
You who dwell in the
Next up, Zach Stevenson, he, him, Scenic Tech faculty since 2008, taught Scott in grad school, and later they became colleagues and good friends.
Y'all are missing out. These are the most damn comfortable chairs. Handcrafted by Scott. And I really miss that one being occupied. I've got a script I'm supposed to work from here in order to be able to hold it together, because the dean follows me, and if I lose it, well, it's going to be a cascade from there. All of us are better people for having our paths intersect with Scott's path. I had the good fortune to cross paths with Scott on 3 separate occasions. And each time it was here, in this magical place, where he stopped to make camp. Each of those experiences made me better. The first time was as student peers. Scott was a grizzled veteran of the technical direction undergraduate NCSA program. And I was a freshly minted grad student. And when we parted camp and Scott's path diverged, I found I was a better technician for that. The second time we camped here, Scott had returned to work on his degree in stage automation, and I was faced with the daunting task of being his new professor. And I can guarantee you, I learned more from Scott than he ever learned from me. And I came away from that experience as a much better teacher. My third encounter with Scott was to work with him as a colleague when he chose to camp here to practice his lifelong craft of teaching and mentoring young technicians. And I have come away from that experience as a better mentor, colleague, and person. As a colleague, I was able to watch Scott's path as he honed in on his true craft, helping students to do better and be better. Scott had an uncanny ability to meet students where they were at. His boundless patience allowed him to hear the student's story, and his analytical mind helped him find the root causes of what was troubling the student, and then help them find their path to resolution. One of his favorite exercises, which I fell victim to on numerous occasions, was 6 solutions. Scott believed there were at least 6 solutions to any problem, and often challenged his students and himself to exercise their minds, stretch their problem-solving abilities, and find multiple paths, multiple ways to a solution. It wasn't about the amazing machines, or the impossible deadlines, or the daunting scope of the project. Scott had already earned those merit badges many times over. It was about the development of the student, the person, to be better. The project, the show, the machine were all only vehicles for that individual's growth along their path. As a colleague, his voice was valued as a voice of reason and perspective. His multiple encampments here, coupled with his extensive professional work, offered an encompassing perspective of the possibilities this institution offers artists and technicians of the 21st century, and a strong perspective on developing better people, humans, and artists. He was a rock. A touchstone, a grounding point for students and faculty alike. He was always just there, in the moment, ready with whatever was needed, a screwdriver, a tape measure, a thoughtful perspective, or an engaged listening ear. Scott was there. As we break camp and we tread upon our own paths, many of us will recognize the trail markers that Scott pointed out for us along the way. Sorry, Michael. As those waypoints begin to fade and we're forced to blaze our own trail, I encourage you all to do as Scott would have suggested his first-year welding classes. Do better.
Next up, Michael Kelly, he, him, Dean of Design and Production.
Thank you all for coming. Today, we gather as a community to honor and celebrate our colleague, our mentor, our friend, Scott Beckwith. His passing is a profound void within the School of Design and Production. And our hearts all know him. And even as we mourn a life cut so short, we are tightly and totally looking at his legacy that he left behind. Scott joined the faculty in 2016, 1 year after he became the Dean of Design and Production. I immediately recognized that he was the type of person who would jump into action in this team. He was endlessly curious and deeply committed and relentlessly driven to understand how things worked and how we could do it better. Over the years, Scott was always asking ways he could pitch in and improve things, and especially improving the school and the students' learning. He took this role with incredible humility, innovation, and passion. In every opportunity, his impact was immediately transformative to us. But the job and responsibilities and the roles do not capture who Scott is and what he meant to the school. Scott was a kind of person who inspired us with kindness, good humor, grace beyond measures. For us, DMP, for us in DMP, you always would ask, how can I help, boss? And he was the last to leave the shop, classroom, and rehearsal hall. Even when students needed help, he was there for them. He poured his heart into the young artists to help them find their voice and believe in themselves. He brought the same spirit and challenge. Scott poked his head into our office every day and offered his support, laughter, and sometimes incredible stories. Scott showed us what it meant to live with integrity and grace. Every moment change, he uplifted others. Even in the face of illness, he continued to care about this community. When I walk down the halls of DMP, I still see Scott's legacy everywhere. It lives in his artistry and his inspiration, and through the students that he trained. In his friendship and his nurturing, in every person whose lives he's changed simply by being with him. He lives in the classroom. He lives in this theater. He lives in all the theaters. He lives in the shops of the school and in countless hearts that he has touched. Today, as we try to navigate the grief, let us celebrate the remarkable life that Scott led. Let us remember the laughter, the curiosity, and his eye for detail and his craftsmanship. His compassion and the way he made us and this community stronger just by being part of it. Scott was more than a gifted teacher, more than a gifted artisan. Scott was the cornerstone of UNCC School of Design and Production. It's hard to think that he'll no longer be here with us. The thought of him no longer being with us, but he left a mark on all of us that's unreplaceable. To Scott's family, friends, and all that who love him, we share your sorrow. We hold you close. We are honored to have him in our lives, and we are lifted by others by staying curious and by the generosity he has given us and the generosity we give others. Thank you. Thank you, Scott, for all that you've given us. We will miss you. We honor to carry that legend forward with your pride and gratitude. We love you, Scott, and we miss you. Thank you.
And just a quick reminder for our final speakers, you do have the option, if you don't want to use the podium, to grab a mic or take a seat in one of Scott's chairs if you like. Next up is Mark Beckwith, he, him, one of Scott's older brothers. Mark.
We got water up here. All right. So I'm going to have trouble finding the words, so I kind of wrote a poem. When Scott was going through his cancer journey, one of the things he would always text us would be like, oh, another adventure. So this poem is aptly titled Scott's Adventure. An adventure began when you were born. 5 at a table that once sat 4. On your motorcycle, you would roar. Plastic hitting vinyl, you'd scoot across the floor. An oath you would take, an Eagle Scout you would make. Hiking tall mountains, driving 4-wheel cars. Trail mix in pockets, boots and jars. You wrote your lists. Your purpose was great, empowering others with a style and grace. You lit the stage in many a life and hid the cat of blue and white. A playful nature of wit and wisdom, a professor teaching others to question their vision, discover your North Star, follow your path, and always, always believe in the math. A Guinness in hand, homemade mac and cheese, you bring out joy in family, friends, and community. Your breath will continue beyond the sunset, a life of loyalty, love, and respect. Although it appears Scott's adventure has come to a stop, we're reminded of his question, but what if it's not? Thank you.
And now Tom Beckwith, another one of Scott's older brothers. Tom?
Lori was right. You can't see anybody. This is good. First of all, I want to say thank you for everybody for coming. Thank you for all the testaments for Scott and the stories that you've shared with us. It paints a beautiful picture of him, his life, and what he meant to all of us. I'm up here to read a message from my family and, more importantly, my folks. Many thanks to all of you for joining in this wonderful celebration of Scott's life. And special thanks to Dean Michael, Rebecca, and the entire committee for creating this memorial. It means so much to all of us. We know Scott would have been so pleased with the establishment of a scholarship in his name. He often expressed his belief that although the programs at UNCSA were among the best in the country, the lack of significant financial aid made it difficult to compete with private institutions when recruiting prospective students. Hopefully this college helps solve some of that problem. Before joining the UNCSA faculty, Scott's work took him all over the world, from Connecticut to Taiwan to Europe and even little old Lidditz, PA. He toured the U.S. with Thoroughly Modern Millie, worked on the Jersey Boys in Las Vegas, flew Tarzan on Broadway, and worked on Disney cruise ships, and sometimes he even cruised. He also spent months with Metallica in California, which apparently was more eventful than I ever heard about. Mexico and Canada. These are just some of the fun jobs Scott had over the years. The design and production team does exceptional work preparing their students for a wide range of careers within the entertainment world. Scott loved teaching. Truly cared about his students and was so happy and proud to be part of the D&P team. He loved you all and thought of you as friends and family. We do too. You have welcomed us with open arms. And this beautiful theater, beautiful production, put on in just 6 weeks. It's crazy. In closing, we'd like to share a bit of information that shows, funny story, shows a side of Scott you may recognize. We recently received 2 phone calls, one from Lowe's and one from Home Depot. They wanted to know if Scott had any extra tools that they could restock their shelves with. Scott's smiling. Thank you all.
And finally, we have a song requested by Scott's parents, Walt and Diane, Let There Be Peace on Earth. It'll be performed by Janine, Holly, and John. Please join us in singing, but only after they've finished singing, of course. Don't want to steal their thunder.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father, siblings all are we. Let me walk with my siblings in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my solemn vow to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Everyone, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father, siblings all are we. Let me walk with my siblings in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every first step I take, let this be my solemn vow to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
In closing, I'd like to say something that I said at my wife's memorial 7 years ago. Love in itself will not solve your problems. It will not cure disease, stop war, end global warming, or help you find your car keys. However, if you let it, love will bring light to the dark places. It will brighten the way towards the answers that you seek. It will underscore the strength you need to get through the day. It will give you a place to rest your thoughts when your day is done. Let us go forward into that light of love and strive to be the best version of ourselves. Let us strive to be someone that Scott Beckwith would be proud to know and love. Thank you all. God bless and blessed be. Please join us in the lobby for Guinness and macaroni, Scott's favorite food. Thank you all.